greetings and hello. It is a very obvious phenomenon that bullying is present in schools, all the way from the very first stages of education to when a child is about to graduate and get their K through 12 diploma. This phenomenon is not just exclusive to the United States, but is worldwide. Bullying mainly happens to boys, as the same social anti-male bias is reflected towards boys in childhood as it is toward adult men. This can easily be proven by the women are wonderful effect, which states that women and girls are perceived better socially without even having to prove the characteristics of their character. Thus automatically, girls have a leg up over boys when it comes to this sphere, through no fault of boys' own. This unfair and discriminatory bias against boys results in girls receiving privileged treatment, while boys are punished for things outside of their control. Thus, girls are listened to and consoled if they are bullied, while boys are thrown outside at night, leaving them to fend for themselves. Of course, this misandrist society justifies this as natural and claims that this is to, quote, toughen boys up for their so-called responsibilities and duties in the future. In other words, society is whipping boys so that they will loathe and hate themselves because of society's hatred toward the male sex. This instills a self-loathing attitude toward themselves in boys, which is very damaging to them. Misandrists are low enough to target boys in their very formative years of development, and speaks volumes about the hatred that people have toward the male sex. The argument that is often brought up is that boys supposedly report bullying or violence against them less than girls do. While this may be true, it is the result of people ignoring the plight of boys and brushing it off and insulting boys for being victims for things outside of their control. This naturally leads boys to, in the future, not report any more cases. Thus, boys cannot be victim blamed for not doing anything when the system itself is on the side of those who abuse boys. Boys are also punished if they show vulnerability or any self-regard. This definitely plays into boys deciding to keep abuse to themselves, as they will be bullied even more if they decide to make it public. This misandric circle is perpetuated by society's sadism toward males. Society is fully aware and knows that it exists, they just want to torment boys. What is needed is a large sweeping societal change toward actually treating boys like human beings. Society just sees boys as future workhorses to be whipped into shape and conditioned to see themselves as expendable. So it is no wonder that so many men have so much self-loathing in them and actively advocate against justice for the male sex. It all starts when vulnerable boys are abused and taken advantage of by people who are actively against their best interests. The notion that facing abuse and bottling it up makes boys stronger is a complete lie. These same tradcans who parrot this lie definitely have trauma themselves that they deal with in various coping mechanisms, including such posturing. So they are lying when they say that anything that happened to them in childhood has been good for them, since they are mentally damaged and are now suffering the effects of being abused. Abuse has been proven to have a negative detrimental impact on a person, which is an obvious fact that gets excluded when boys are brought up. Science and reason are discarded when boys are the topic of conversation, due to again, boys not being seen as worthy individuals who have their own goals, dreams and interests. Studies that show that bullying has a negative effect are completely ignored when the topic is boys, but tradcans will immediately jump onto the case where a girl even remotely feels uncomfortable. That shows that their hypocrisy is just hatred and loathing toward the male sex, with zero basis in reality. Also, the talk that this toughening up makes boys more resilient in the future is a post-hoc rationalization. Abuse is abuse, nothing more to it. If you really wanted a society to do better, you would collectivize and treat boys with respect and guide them in a healthy way, which would actually promote growth and development. This way, society would greatly benefit from a unified culture without the baggage lopped on by spiteful hazing. Tradcans, due to their distaste and hatred for other men, want to hurt them and excuse it as being tough love. Then why does this so-called tough love make it even harder for men to progress and have stability in their life? Explain how lopping heavy weight on someone at once won't make them sink. Tradkins have zero answers for this, besides more brain-damaged garble about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All repeated platitudes that have zero basis in reality and are just regressive ego defense thought patterns. I went through it, so it must be good, yada yada yada. I have addressed how Tradkins are both harmful and regressive earlier, and now I will talk about how feminists are perpetuating this abuse and are lying when they say that feminists are also for little boys. Feminists have only focused on the female sex, and when they acknowledge the male sex, it's to victim blame them and attack them. Feminists will claim that bullying is something that just needs to be sorted out between boys, not a human rights violation that should be dealt with due to its massively negative impact on the lives of children. This is feminists blatantly ignoring the abuse suffered by boys and ignoring it out of spite. Feminists' goal is to make men suffer out of pure sadistic hatred and maintaining the status quo of not doing anything about bullying, whom boys are the majority victims of, accomplishes this. They want men and little boys alike to suffer in silence, while women use their social dominance to attack the male sex even more. Mentioning women, mothers are also fully complacent in the abuse of their sons. There have been zero mother organizations that focus on the victims of bullying, which are majority boys. It's because women are either indifferent toward the suffering of males, or they actively want to perpetuate it. This dispels the myth that women make better parents than men. Boys also have to face vicious girl bullies, and they are left with even less recourse, because the individual bullying them is considered an angelic uber-human in the eyes of society. So boys are blamed and targeted even more in this case, which teaches them that they are beneath women, and that the female sex can get away with harm toward them. Because female bullies have much more social power and leverage on their side, the fact that society ignores this form of abuse that is hurled at boys is even more telling about the evil nature that permeates society. Well-meaning and good-natured boys are thrown in the dust to pander to female psychopaths, whose goal is to torment them. This dynamic is still the same in adulthood, as female criminals and women who abuse their female privilege are allowed to get away with crime and other nefarious behavior. This is the nail in the coffin of the idea that there is a natural explanation to boys getting abused and ignored. It is not about making a good productive person out of the boy, nor is it about supposed lessons about being moral. It's just to show boys their place and attack them just for being male. Because society is regressive, it justifies this behavior toward boys, when positive results would happen if bullying against boys was taken seriously and stamped out. Society is actively encouraging harmful behavior out of spite toward the male sex. This parallels how feminists hijack hobbies and bring them down, not out of any positive interests, but purely out of spite and hatred for anything related to male contentment and progress. Society is willing to hold itself back by abusing boys, which shows how great the hatred toward men is. What is reiterated here is that bullying is not positive or done with a productive reason. It's perpetuated because society hates boys, no other excuse.